Winter is upon us, and it is time to get our sheep, as you can see behind me, into their breeding groups. So today we're going to kind of do the deed of getting the sheep separated and into their breeding groups. Now we're going to kind of walk through the thought process here this year and sort of explain how we come up with some of our pairings, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. One thing I will say kind of off the bat, we do have registered sheep, Icelandic sheep, which does mean that technically they are pedigreed. Now, really, all a pedigree is, although it sounds fancier, is a lineage. There's a lineage of their ancestry. And it's very useful when you don't or can't have an entire population yourself to have that lineage, and we're going to kind of walk you through that a little bit. Although I will say at the beginning, the pedigree is not the only reason for the breeding choices or the individuals that get to stay.
In typical Hickorycroft fashion, we're behind. It's a blizzard today, and our ram lambs for this year, ones we're using for breeding and butchering, are still back on the pasture. And as you can see, I think pasture season is over. So this is going to be fun going to get them because they've been back there for quite some time, and now we have 8 inches of snow. And yeah, hopefully we can make this work. This somewhat daunting task makes this a little less magical right now, doesn't it, Chris?
It's pretty, but...
It's pretty, but this is...
We're getting it just before...
Yeah. Anyways, we're going to see if we can get these boys to come all the way down this long channel without changing their mind and going back. Well, these boys look ready to come in. I don't think they want to be out here anymore. But you can see winter wonderland for them. They're glad they got all that gorgeous fleece. Hey, you guys are lucky I didn't shear you, aren't you? You're lucky I didn't shear you. All right, they're out of the pen. Unfortunately now they're like, let's eat some grass. You can see it's getting deep. Well, they didn't want to come, and we didn't want to chase them and cause an issue because all of them were being very well behaved with us. So we're going to wait it out and see if they come on their own because it's a closed channel. So we'll just wait.
Well, it's a new day. As you can see, although it's windy and -5, we got a lot of snow, but it is nice and sunny. So we didn't quite get everything sorted yesterday. So what we did get done yesterday is we did get all the ram lambs back from sort of the back pastures. Kind of took two phases, but they're back in the barn and seem quite content and quite happy to be back in the barn. So here are 4 of the 5 back in the barn, and to be honest with you, they seem super happy, super content to be in here with hay. But 2 of these 4 will be getting split up and put with some of the girls here later today.
So Lucky Luke has also made it up from the back and has his own little stall here now. So we had to wait overnight for him to get here because like the others, he wasn't ready to come in, but he's here now.
Up to this point, we haven't really explained sort of what the plan is. And the plan basically is to use 5 of the rams that we have. Now, that seems kind of crazy at face value, why use 5 rams, but essentially because we have them, and we're going to go into this in a bit more detail in another video, explaining how we make some of these decisions as to who gets used and who doesn't. Now, one thing, conformation, temperament, those are super important things. We also do look at inbreeding coefficients and just general relatedness. So that's the plan. We have sort of 2 senior rams, and then we're going to use 3 ram lambs. We actually prefer using the ram lambs for a lot of reasons because there's always that temptation to keep something or hold something back, i.e. a ewe lamb And if you're using the ram lambs, you're kind of constantly doing a bit of a turnover. So without further ado, we're going to get into the actual process of moving everybody around. So this little group actually got moved in together last night. So this is Rasta, which is really our most senior ram, with his back end to us there. And Gray, which is the darker one, and 20, which is actually still one of our foundation ewes. So we'll discuss this a little bit more in detail, but essentially these two girls are from the same line. And so that's a big reason for the choice here.
So here we have another pairing together. This is Enya. Enya is going with Lucky for this breeding season, but so far they're sharing the grain and getting along quite well. But we'll come back and check on these two in a few minutes.
So one thing about this particular pairing is this is one of the ram lambs, and one thing we do find with the ram lambs, they're not very hard on the ewes. In fact, it's often the opposite way, where if you've got a lot of big mature ewes trying to put them with, you know, one younger ram, doesn't always work, because if they don't like him, they let him know. So one thing we do find with this approach of using the ram lambs, it's a little different from what you often hear about using sort of just big mature rams, because they can cover more ewes. But when you're doing it on a small scale, your genetic diversity in your flock is going to be a little bit more important than how many ewes the ram can cover. Definitely keep in mind that if you were trying to use ram lambs on a large number of adult ewes, you're probably not going to get the success rate that you are hoping for. Getting sheep separated into their breeding groups sounds like it should be something that should be easy to do in one day, but that's not really been the case for us. And a lot of that has to do with A, the weather, as you saw earlier, but B, figuring out how to juggle everything, because we only have so much barn space, so much pen space. Even though it's beautiful out today, a week later, the pastures really aren't an option for us to sort of pasture breed. So we've got to figure out juggling everything. So that's splitting sheep up, putting geese in places because they use the barn stalls as well, and the ponies. So what we've done is we've slowly over the week broken the groups up. So we started with our adult rams and their groups, and today we're going to finally get the last couple groups together. We have two younger ram lambs who are going to each get two girls to see how they do for this year. So one thing that's really nothing to do with breeding, but that we do when we're sorting into breeding groups, is we do some regular maintenance. So typically hoof trimming as we sort. So it's a good chance, because you're basically getting your hands on them to get them into those groups to sort of check and see how their feet are, etc. We do also check the Famacha, looking at the eyes to see. This time of year, it's never usually a big issue. Everybody's got very pink eyes, because it's not where we live, it's not the perfect time in the life cycle of the barber pole worm to be a problem, but we do still check, because you never know if you get a surprise.
And it's just the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do as part of the maintenance. So
this is Fatty, and we are using him this year as one of our breeding groups. First off, for the fact that he is very genetically different. His dad was not related to any of our sheep. But also look at these amazing horns. This is beautiful horn set, which is something that, as you've seen in our video before about Tony and his bad horns, we do struggle with in our herd. And so we are trying to, hi Fatty, we're trying to improve that every year. And these are horns that are worth keeping.
Pardon the wind, but one thing I will say when you're using younger ram lambs, or even big rams too, but it's nice to give them space, because they're small enough, and Icelandic sheep just have the disposition that the big girls in confinement, they can do a lot of damage if they're not happy about it. Usually it takes a day or so and they settle down, and then they're interested in him, but usually when we do the split, not everybody's super keen.